It's time to hog the airwaves with bikers' first-hand adventures across the country. Ride with us and keep yourself informed on issues, events, and everything else bikers want to know. The road is their home, and it's time to find out where are they now. You're listening to Good Time Charlie on Bikers Inner Circle, Underground Radio.
All right, everybody, how y'all doing? It's Good Time Charlie. This is the third show for 2012. You're checking out Bikers Inner Circle on the internet highways, music to wrench by, and biker rap, and all kind of cool stuff that we be doing. And this is definitely underground, and so we get to do whatever the hell we want to do. And you know, you folks out there seem to be liking it. We've been together now going on about 7 years, I think. 7 or 8 years now we've been on internet highways, and got over 20,000 viewers that come to the site, and not to mention our Facebook and all that cool stuff. But we want to thank you. And also our sponsors. One of our major sponsors, watch out for motorcycles, UB and Abraham. And UB and Abraham has been sponsoring us for a while and really dig what we do. And we really appreciate them coming in every year and helping us out. If it was without folks like them, we couldn't keep the show going. And folks, there's a lot of other sponsors. You can go to our sponsor page and click it, and just go on their websites, maybe shoot them an email, tell them you dig their products, maybe even get some of their products, and let them know you check them out through Bikers Inner Circle. Now, over there in Milwaukee, let me tell you a little bit about UB and Abraham. They're not just motorcycle attorneys. They also ride motorcycles. And one of the main guys over there is Tony Pan. Tony Pan was the first freedom fighter ever to be inducted to the Sturgis Hall of Fame. And started Bolt and Abate, and he's just always out there fighting for our rights, and he's one of the main folks that work for UB and Abraham. And like I say, they take really good care of you. If you've been in an accident and you already have a lot of stress and stuff, let them folks come on over and help you out and relieve some of that stress. And they also try to get you a motorcycle instead of if you've been in a small accident or something and used to riding your motorcycle to work, they try real hard to get, instead of a rent-a-car, they try to get you a bike. So that ought to tell you what kind of folks they are. Anyway, please go to UB and Abraham and check that shit out. All right? Okay, we're going to get into a little story from Sonny Keaton, and this is Flying Floyd, Race with the Devil. And let me tell you, folks, this is a good biker story. And I hope you're having a good time. You folks out there in the snow, I hope y'all enjoy this. I'll see y'all after the show.
Flying Floyd's Race with the Devil. Of all the old scooter tramps I met riding the road, some of them poets with tales to be told. One sticks in my mind 'cause his stories were bold. His face was all weathered like a mountain man's skin, and from the scars that he carried, a grizzly done him in. His hair was still colored to strength from within, while a few lines of gray were gracing his chin. As he told them his stories, some were amazed, while others scoffed and chuckled and were sure he was crazed. As he stood there spinning tales of a traveling man, while his hand laid on the throttle of his old dusty pan, his bike was a departure from the norm of today, built to hold a fast lane with never a sway, long and raked out like the sleds of yesterday. As we all sat around him in the glow of the fire, I noticed there was something different about his attire. He was minus all the pins bikers collect now and then. When I asked him about it, he said, "I lost them to the wind." Then he paused for a moment, laughed and threw back his head. He said, "The last one came from a hippie chick I kicked from my bed." Now a younger man with us said that he'd heard the old tramp race the devil, but that was absurd. And the old tramp turned to the younger man talking and said, "Son, I was riding before I was walking. Don't be so quick to a legend outdraw. I remember you in diapers, and I know your ma. Me and your dad rode many a mile before some drunk driver left him in a pile." When the younger man seen he'd talked through his hat, he said, "No shit, man, I really heard that." Just then the look on the tramp's face paled, and he looked like a man whose soul had been jailed. He turned to catch us all in his gaze and said, "It really happened in my younger days." Now he said in the beginning the story first told by himself, but since then he personally had put it on the shelf. He said he knew others had stretched out the tale, and no doubt had added their hot air to the sail. Suddenly, now as the campfire danced in his eyes, he said, "Tonight you'll hear the truth instead of someone's lies. It all started with my old lady Irene and that damn knucklehead she called her suicide machine, 'cause I did the wrenching while she kept her fingernails clean. She claimed one time when I worked on the brakes, I tried to kill her, and on that she laid down stakes. Now the possession of this woman's soul by the machine I beheld, make it go faster, is what she yelled. So I threw in a camshaft and lifters to boot, not to mention a dual-throat Weber to give it some toot. I told her to ride it, and I thought I was through. She came back with a grin and said, 'What else can we do?' I took the heads off and had 'em flowed. That was Greek to her, but her little face glowed. 'What about those strokers?' she naively asked. Soon she'd be driving me toward that mechanical task. In order to satisfy her performance kicks, I bored it and stroked it and made it a 96. It didn't take long, and it was all over town. Irene was the fastest rider around, till that night she came home a-wearing a frown. She said it was scary what happened out there, and a good dose of gray had added to my hair. I was beat by some mystery rider on a fiery steed. It wasn't long, and he'd taken the lead. She said he passed me at 90. I said, "That don't take nerve." She said, "Yes, it does." I was in dead man's curve. As he flew on past me and into the turn, he looked over at me with eyes that could burn. If it weren't from the wind from his powerful sled, the curve would have claimed me as one of its dead. Then he backed off his throttle as I pulled up beside. I hollered, "I can beat that piece of shit you ride." I said I'd bet anything for a win. He said his title for my soul and gave me a grin. Next Friday at midnight for the race we agreed, then he disappeared in the night on his satanical steed. Now it seemed like the race was haunting Irene as I reminded her next Friday fell on 13. But she said superstition to me is just dumb, and next Friday I'm going to outrun that bum. So the next day I went on a trip to the store, scoring more goodies to make the knucklehead roar. The rest of the week was labor and toil, not to mention burning all that midnight oil. It was now Friday morning and the work was all done. We poured in some fuel to make the knucklehead run. When I cranked up the knuckle, it sounded real neat. I told Irene that much power was dangerous on the street. After a few test rides and a few shots of Jack, Irene started her bragging. This race was in the sack. She grabbed up the bottle and drank down some more nerve for facing the stranger and dead man's curve. She drank, and she drank no matter what I said, while the Jack Daniels took a toll on her head. After drinking all that courage for her midnight bout, I turned to find Irene in the chair had passed out. I said to a brother I thought it was good. Then he reminded me of the wager and asked me if it still stood. From Irene's description she'd given of the dude, if she didn't show, he'd sure have an attitude. My brother said his old lady had a blonde-headed wig, and with fake tits, at night I'd look like Irene on that knucklehead rig. It wasn't a great idea, but it was all that I had to save Irene's soul from this death rider who was mad. My brother gave me aid in the donning of the deception, while Irene lay lifeless from the whiskey connection. With the disguise in place and the knucklehead running, my brother wished me luck, laughed, and said I looked stunning. As I rode through the night behind the headlights' beam, I felt like I was living out some horrible dream. As I approached the location of our performance rendezvous, I saw a headlight looming in my rear view. It must have been a sixth sense. Somewhere in my mind, I knew it was the Death Rider coming up from behind. It didn't take long, and he pulled up beside. The way his bike ran, I knew Irene hadn't lied. His bike was nothing like any man owns. The motor was cradled in a frame made of bones. The monstrous motor pounded out each stroke, while mounted on the sissy bar was a pitchfork to give you a poke. He only rode beside me for a second or two when he yelled out, "Hey, bitch, what will your iron do?" Well, I guess my disguise had worked pretty well, and in a high-pitched voice, I gave back a yell. "You came here tonight for your hideous goal, but I'm going to win this race and hang on to my soul." We needed no starter for the race that would ensue. We both twisted throttles, and off our bikes flew. As we screamed through the night, neck and neck we were. If there'd been any witnesses, we'd only been a blur. Handlebar to handlebar and peg to peg, I was just about to pass him when he kicked me with his leg. He came here to win, no matter what he had to do, but I kicked him back. It was a game for two. As we raced through the night, my wrenching paid its debt. The knuckle pulled ahead, I was winning the bet. This race of all races was testing my nerve as we plunged headlong toward that infamous curve. The stroker did good at toting the load, but in the curve, only prayers would make it stick to the road. His last trick was something conjured down there. He threw fire from his fingertips, nearly singed off my hair. The fire blew on past me and melted the dew. My tires stuck to the hot asphalt as if it were glue. If it hadn't have been for my competitor's trick, I couldn't have gotten my tires to stick. I pulled down the highway and out of the turn. I looked over my shoulder only to learn the rider of the mystery bike nowhere in sight. So I rode back slowly to find out his plight. That's when I saw it, as it sat there alone. Over on the kickstand sat the bike made from bone. Pinned to the seat was a note he had done, giving me his title and acknowledging I'd won. To this day it sits in my shop covered up, and my old lady Irene is as gentle as a pup. She lost all desire for going real fast, and what happened that night is a thing of the past. When he was through with his story, he fired up his pan, splitting the night like a traveling man. "Who was that tramp?" spoke a voice in the void. I said, "Don't you know? That was Flying Floyd."